Welcome back, Tribe. I have an episode here, why Germans are voting for the far right. Talk about what happened in those elections and what's going on with Europe, the rest of Germany, America. Everything's probably going to be rolled up in here.
I'm really worried about the safety of my family.
A battle for power is raging in Germany. For the first time since World War II, a far-right party is expected to come second in a general election. And the country is divided.
They threaten my family. My husband's not from Germany. I've come from a Jewish heritage.
I don't want to live under a fascist regime.
When you have no arguments, especially in Germany, then you say Nazi.
We're heading directly in a situation of civil war.
So I'm on a journey through the AfD heartland to find out why some German voters are going far right.
We all know I just can't say it out loud.
It's a pretty chilly February morning and we're in the car heading out of Berlin towards the state of Saxony. It's in the east, and the reason we're going there is that the Alternative for Germany, or AfD, party is holding a rally. So basically the plan is head down there, have a chat to some of the people in the crowd and find out what's attracting them to the party.
So as we make our journey, let's run through the four main parties vying for power. In the lead at the moment, the party of former Chancellor Angela Merkel, the Christian Democrats or CDU and their CSU allies, led by this man, Friedrich Merz. There's the Social Democrats or SPD and the current Chancellor Olaf Scholz, the Greens with Robert Habeck, but polling second is the AfD, a party its leader calls conservative, but is dogged by allegations of racism, Islamophobia and right-wing extremism, which it denies. Its Chancellor candidate is former banker Alice Weidel. She lives in Switzerland with her wife and kids and has been endorsed.
Her wife and kids. This is Germany's far-right party. Pay attention.
By Elon Musk.
I very much hope that the AfD does well and that Alice Weidel does become chancellor. I think that would be very good for Germany.
Weidel's right-hand man, Tino Kruppalla, is due to be holding the rally we're heading to. But when we arrive, his opponents are ready and waiting. Anti-AfD protesters have surrounded the building where they'll meet. Many signs accuse the party of being Nazis or fascists. The AfD in Saxony has been officially designated as a far-right extremist group. But they're still the most popular party here, which terrifies some.
I don't want to live in a fascist regime.
The AfD, though.
You already live under a fascist regime. You can go to jail for a meme. You live in a heavily propagandized state already. The information you're being fed, the fact that you call them a fascist regime is straight from the ruling parties. This shit is happening, or at least was happening up until Trump got elected, with the conservatives / Republicans. Same thing. They're Nazis. They're fascists. They were trying to say like every little thing, like when Elon was saying, my heart to you goes out to you. They were trying to make that as if he did a Nazi salute, which it wasn't. And then they had, like, you could see the memes were insane. They had multiple, pictures of like Obama doing it, Clinton doing it, everybody doing the gesture like this. Everybody, literally, is just how you're speaking. My heart goes out to everybody. But that's the propaganda machine to radicalize its voter base by scaring the shit out of them, preying on their emotions to get voter turnout happening, essentially. It's propaganda, and it's everywhere. Dude, with U.S. aid being deconstructed by the current establishment in America, Trump's version of Republicans, whatever you want to call this party that's in power now, because it's not the old rhinos. It's just a little bit of something new. It's like a coalition party of former Democrats as well. But they're starting to unravel just the amount of, like, what do you want to call it? Statecraft, CIA wet work, the nasty stuff that the CIA wasn't supposed to be doing was all done by U.S. aid legally. Staging coups, jailing foreign leaders, fomenting and destabilizing countries so that it would be productive for U.S. interest, essentially. We're toppling government still. It's just through U.S. aid. It's no more CIA assassination coups and shit like that. That's not what's happening anymore. We literally fund entire campaigns. We foment. You guys have no idea, dude. You should listen to this. What's his name? He was on Joe Rogan and he was on a couple other big channels.
It's like NATO, the EU.
Mike Benz is his name. Mike Benz. He was on Tucker Carlson as well. One of the ones that blew my mind is they developed a Twitter-like application for Cuba only. They market, this is US aid, guys. Listen to this shit. They made a Twitter clone, marketed as like up-to-date information on hurricanes and whatever other crap. And then once they got a critical mass of users by injecting a little bit of like soccer news, football news, whatever it was, right? Like social, cultural stuff, like music and other degenerate shit, along with like, hey, here's where you get your latest news about hurricanes and shit. Then they started fomenting and posting a ton of anti-government sentiment, planning and essentially driving calls for protest, destabilizing a country, like Maidan, Ukraine, like, all these other countries that essentially don't go the way the US wants them to go. The machine starts to kick into place. This lady is living under this right now. She doesn't even know it. This is what it means to be technically literate in the world today. The information you're getting, you have to verify both sides, whether you're a conservative, whether you're a liberal, you're on the left or the right, it doesn't matter. We're all being played. The digital tools today is what the Nazi Party would be dreaming of having. It's absolutely insane how it's easy to radicalize people that are, for lack of a better word, ignorant to what's really happening all around them, informationally speaking. Dude, there's another thing I came across. It's called the game Werewolf. It's basically where you take like 10 people, 8 of them are villagers, 2 of them are werewolves, and it's like a voting system. Everybody closes their eyes, and then without the werewolves, basically it's like that video game Imposter. The werewolves cannot show who they are, at least that's the game, and you both vote on somebody to kill. That person dies in the game. Then everybody opens their eyes, and now all the villagers get to vote on who they think the werewolf is that they should kill. And they end up picking somebody. They pick wrong, because statistically probable. The game is won when you kill all the werewolves and the villagers survive, or for the werewolves to kill all the villagers and surviving. So the way the game ends up always playing is that the people with the knowledge of being the werewolves will always win in the game versus the villagers, aka the uninformed masses. 2 can manipulate 8 in perpetuity. The numbers could grow. It doesn't matter. So when you have an entire electorate like Germany, a vast swath of them that are uninformed to what's really happening, the werewolves, aka establishment, always has the winning hand. This is what makes this so corrosive to democracy, because it's not democratic in any way. And so the misinformation campaigns, disinformation campaigns, US aid, all the bureaucracy in the EU, it's all a machine for control to keep the masses blind to what's really happening. And they're shocked that everything they're instituting is basically the open borders, the mass migrants, the welfare states for the migrants, all that shit is collapsing on its own weight of hypocrisy. And now far-right parties, which they label them far-right. There's nothing far-right about wanting closed borders, stopping the welfare state, and kicking out violent migrants. That's like the basics of securing a nation, sovereignty.
Would say that they're not fascists, they're the future for Germany.
They have no solutions. And they just say when there's not more migration, when there's less migration, then everything will be fine.
So while it's not a big crowd here, it is actually quite...
You won't be shocked to find out that a voting bloc that's voting the liberal parties in mass are liberal women, and then conservative men, especially younger men, are voting conservative AFD in droves. When you broke down I was looking at the demographics earlier of who was voting for what, it's a shocker that older people are voting liberal, younger people are voting conservative in general, but especially men. They're having their own, quote, MAGA red wave in sense where these young men are voting in droves for AFD. And I think the big conversation that's going on right now, guys, is Germany's lost. This is over. This was their one chance. Yes and no. They're going to be in for another, 2-3 years of pain until the 2028 elections. They have another round of elections. Then we have the midterms in America around then too. I honestly, 27, 28. I honestly think that in the next 5 years, Germany is going to transform completely. It wasn't their time yet. I guarantee you, I believe that their numbers are going to rise dramatically because it's going to be another couple of years of this shit, because the two top parties that in Germany that have won in the exit polls, AfD was like the second highest voted, but what's happening in Germany is called a grand coalition. For those that don't know, Americans, it's where two parties combine to rule and have a super majority, or I should just say a majority, over 50% of the seats. So then they can legislate, make laws, all that stuff. Okay. So that's how their system works. What they did was, if the AfD didn't have enough votes this time, a critical amount, to be forced into a coalition, then what was going to happen was all these other parties that are now coming together or whatever with their votes basically are going to cock block them out of the next German government. Those two parties are going to combine, make a coalition, and then they'll rule Germany, and AfD will be basically on the sidelines just watching still. They get to maybe slow some things down here and there or whatever, but the way this works is, if there's another, let's just give it 4 years of this, 5 years of this, what do you think is going to happen for the rhetoric of the, quote, far right? More migration, more public tragedies, more stabbings, more cars running people over. All that stuff is going to increase. The racial tension and the fervor, the welfare state collapsing on itself. The world economy is due for a correction. We're already on shaky ground. Germany already officially is in a recession. But if a global downturn comes, which looks like it's coming, we don't know when, 2026 is kind of the number people are saying, but 2030s could be a global depression-like event. From all the cards are lining up perfectly for this to happen. Can you imagine what that kind of economic pressure, with the racial tension, the fervor of ethnic divides, the welfare state collapsing over itself, these coalition parties not being able to save Germany, and radicalization, or you should just say far-right messaging, will grow exponentially on social media because it is the voice of the people. There's a disconnect between the governance of the elite and the people that are living day to day. This is the same issue the United States has faced, and that's why they elected Trump. This is the same issue the UK is currently facing, and they're doubling down on the hypocrisy, and it is very possible that a hardline conservative party will come out of this. It's already happened in Hungary. It's going to happen. Poland kind of clawed back a little bit, but we'll go back into a hardliner. Romania has a potential hardliner conservative government coming that doesn't want NATO, doesn't want the EU, doesn't want wars, period, just wants its own sovereignty. Think about it. Why do you think all these nations are headed? Marine Le Pen in France, she's projected to win the next elections. So Italy went on the conservative side. France is headed on a conservative side. The conservatives, or the far right, whatever you want to call them, are gaining massive ground every single election in Germany. The UK is completely becoming destabilized, like before our very eyes. People are being arrested for memes. The echoes of democracy are becoming softer and quieter as grandma gets arrested for saying she doesn't like the Labour Party and how, they're treating migrants with two-tier preferential treatment. And so you're going to arrest a granny, but some dude just stabbed a cop or ran some people over, and he gets a less harsh sentence, or touches a young girl inappropriately or grooms her, part of a gang. Nothing happens to them. And you can't voice your disdain for the system without being potentially arrested and jailed. What sounds more fascist? Isn't that crazy? It's weird, dude. Isn't it weird? It's freaking weird. Even America was going down this road until they reversed course last minute. America had like a blip of reawakening or something, like I don't even know how to describe it, because if you guys remember, during the Biden administration, they had a ministry of truth. They had a department of mis or malinformation or something. Remember, he tried to actually start the ministry of truth in real life to combat malinformation, disinformation, and misinformation. And who gets to decide what any of those are? The government does. So what is it really? All mal, dis, and misinformation is anything that the government disagrees with. Unreal, bro. We were literally, in the United States, we're headed for that exact moment. America had like a last minute dude just like, cold water just got poured on everybody's face. Like, oh shit. Europe, a bit more fractured. Let's see.
Tense, and we've seen just now the police have arrested some of the people from the anti-AfD side. They've been holding them by the fence there. They just let them go to a huge round of applause. But it shows you that even in AfD strongholds like Saxony, that there's a real tension and a real concern from people who are really worried about the future of Germany and the support for this party.
They know it's unlikely the AFD will get into government as they don't have a majority and no other party will work with them.
Yeah, you see?
But for some, the fact a far-right party's polling second is mind-blowing.
If you speak to an AFD supporter, they'll say, I'm not a fascist, I'm not a racist, but we've taken too many migrants, for example, the country doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
What's your response to them?
I think they're just talking because if we look at this country, it's not my Syrian refugees whose fault it is that my wages are short or that, I don't know, that it's crime. It's not refugees. To put all the fault on migrants.
Crime, it's not refugee. This is somebody that's like eternally on Reddit. Do you see the brainwashing I told you earlier? Look at it, dude. This is a young dude that literally thinks it's only the far right party, that the Nazis, that are the problem. Welcome more migrants. All of them are welcome. Zero checks and balances on who they are, where they come from, what they've done. 70% of welfare in Germany, over 70% is paid out to migrants. It's literally crumbling their economic system. That is why you're having your stagnant wages. That is why your country is in a fucking recession. That is why there is violence on the streets. You cannot assimilate these millions of people this quickly into your society when they have cultural values that clash with your own. They don't respect your country. They don't care about German values. And this is what's happening. Just like Sweden, bro. Sweden brought in so many people. That was a model for like a progressive utopia. Now it's like the rape capital of Europe. They had a record like 30 bombings in January, stabbings, AK-47, multiple AK-47 shootouts. Are you kidding me? But it's not the migrants. Okay.
That's just wrong. We have to.
That's propaganda.
Suddenly, a man trying to get to the AFD rally interrupts.
If you want to compare something, then you can compare the 20s.
It's immediately clear how divided voters are, especially around migration.
I agree with the deportation thing because we have definitely too much foreigners and there's too much violence. I'm worried about that we're heading directly in a situation of civil war.
You think it's that bad?
Yeah, but society is so divided into two parties. I would say that, and there's so much hate and so much violence. I never see a situation like this before.
With that warning, as the police keep the two sides apart, we make our way into the hall where the AFD meeting's being held.
Crazy.
Upstairs, a crowd is enthusiastically listening to co-leader Tino Kruppala. Burly security guards keep an eye out for trouble, but the audience is mainly adored. However, afterwards it seems some want to keep their AFD support hidden. Peter only agrees to speak to us if we don't show his face.
That's
you
insane.
You are being persecuted by such people like Antifa outside, and they are not really Democrats because they are not accepting different opinions. Germany has become very unsafe. I am thinking about leaving the country.
You see?
What you hear in there is quite interesting because if you are living in the UK or the US, it's really familiar. It's straight out of the populist playbook, what people are concerned about. So it might be immigration, it could be green policies, but it's things that you might have heard from Donald Trump.
The AFD formed in 2013. In the beginning, it was Eurosceptic and anti-Euro with a clear focus on the economy. But in 2015, under new leaders, it moved further right, becoming a radical populist party. The migrant crisis of 2015-16 led to increasingly anti-immigration and anti-Muslim language. Slogans including "Islam does not belong in Germany" and "Burqas, we're more into bikinis" have caused controversy. A number of party members have been accused of trivialising the Holocaust and Germany's Nazi past. In 2024, a party aide was accused of spying for China, and there were national protests after AFD members attended a meeting where the mass deportation of foreigners was discussed. But none of that seems to have dented the AFD's popularity in this election, where immigration is once again in the spotlight. With just over a week to go to the vote, an Afghan man admitted deliberately driving into a trade union protest in Munich. As police hold the 24-year-old, A few meters away, the innocents caught up in this carnage. This is one of a number of alleged attacks carried out by foreign suspects.
And that young kid said it's not the problem. Violence is not the problem with the migrants.
Here, a Saudi doctor is arrested after allegedly driving into crowds at a Christmas market in Magdeburg.
This will be completely blurred out for you guys because YouTube doesn't allow me to show you any of this. If you're wondering.
6 people died and hundreds were injured. As Germans grieve and try to make sense of the senseless, the debate around migration rages.
And this is exactly why the AfD party will win another record number of seats in the next couple of years when they have votes again. Watch, man. And the number will get critical and they cannot be ignored next time. Why? It takes a few more of these. Unfortunately, innocent people will die. That's what it's going to take.
So as we head to Magdeburg to find out what people are thinking, I think it's really worth just quickly recapping the migration situation here.
Because it could have been avoided if you just closed your borders, turned back every single migrant, only allowed the ones with skills to come in the country that can, contribute economically right away. All the unskilled ones need to be shipped back. Anybody that's not employed, shipped back or making a certain percent minimum wage. We can't be at poverty either. You got to have a job and actually be doing decent at least, like an average German. And if not, you're going back. You failed to integrate. Can you speak German? Language proficiency test. No? You failed to what? Integrate after a few years? Goodbye, bro. Go back. You got to be sent back. Germany is for Germans. Germany is for people that want to assimilate into German culture. End of story. And it should be that way for every single country, dude. If I was supposed to go to Britain, if I was going to migrate to Britain, I would start learning English culture, English language, English customs, English way of life, the English food, English jokes, the English style of speaking, inflection in my voice, all that. I would try to fit in completely, assimilate with the society that took me in, my new home. And also for migrants, I don't know why countries haven't done this yet. Just for me, though, I'm just saying, if you're a man migrating to a country, you automatically must be conscripted into the army, period. You want to show loyalty to a new land, you must bleed for it. End of story. I think that would drop migration dramatically overnight for people that don't plan to assimilate, don't care for a country's customs or culture, and would not bleed for its sovereignty. I'm okay with that, dude. Automatic drafting into the army, and you're one of the first ones going to the front line. And you could get that passport. You could get that citizenship. End of story. Men and women. Not a man only thing. Don't care. Any migrant in any single country that they go to that they try to settle in, you must be in the army. Thoughts on that? Or am I sounding like an extremist? I don't know. According to these people, probably.
In Germany. So Germany traditionally takes in the most asylum seekers in the EU. And in 2015, the then Chancellor Angela Merkel announced an open door policy, which saw more than 1 million people arrive. And
destroy
that helped
the EU.
Fuel resentment and has really boosted the anti-migrant AfD.
In December, as Magdeburg mourned, the far right rallied. Asylum seekers out, they shouted. Some marched behind a banner saying remigration. That's a right-wing plan to forcibly deport foreigners en masse.
Is there Christmas market from here?
Syrian-born Saeed says a division has opened up in the city and some now see all migrants as the enemy.
I think one person was waiting in the bus station or tram station in Hasselbachplatz, and 3 or 4 people attacked him and punched him. 2 blocks from here, someone told me his son was in the elevator. I think he's 8 or 9-year-old, and his neighbor, he tried to choke him. I go, just choke him.
Tried to strangle him?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
And this was after the Christmas market?
After the Christmas market, yeah.
So people are afraid?
Of course, people are afraid. People are really, really afraid.
The AfD also held their own rally here after the Christmas market attack, mobilising mourners behind their anti-migrant, anti-Muslim message. Satish could hear the crowd from his restaurant, and on some points, he agrees.
So Germany is well aware that you have to integrate, you have to bring skills. Yeah, immigrants should not be threat to your country. There you have to draw.
This
He
is
sounds like an extremist.
Germans in Frankfurt cheering as Syrians arrive in 2015. So this is some of 1 million people
Trojan horse.
who came in under Merkel's open door policy.
I have seen that. I mean, I don't say it's a mistake, but it was ignorance. They were ignorant about how the people will respond. You know nothing about them, and you accept them just like accepting or thinking or projecting that they will be like us. So this is something I will say this was something not very well judged at that time.
Satish isn't alone in his concerns. Around 60% of Germans now think the country should take fewer refugees. And last year, the government introduced checks on the border. The CDU wants to make those permanent and also is looking at the possibility of stopping some asylum seekers from entering the country. But like them or loathe them, like many populist parties, the AfD is really effective at converting concerns into support. They feed off worries over the economy, the cost of living, climate controls, and migration.
Which are all real issues. They're not just worries. They're real issues that everyday Germans deal with. Just like Trump capitalized on the real issues everyday Americans deal with that Democrats don't want to acknowledge. They wanted to do gender ideology and DEI and all this woke bullshit that doesn't affect everyday Americans when they go to the grocery store, when they go to fill up their cars with gas, when they go to make the payments for their rent or their mortgages. All that shit is what really matters to people. Where's my taxpayer money going? Why are the borders open? Why are millions of people being resettled in our land? How come the government is giving them handouts when you can't even get $700 when your fucking house gets flooded or burned or whatever natural tragedy strikes in whatever part of America? Hurricane wipes out an entire community, fires in California, floods somewhere else. And you get a whopping $700 check. Oh, sorry, because FEMA sent all the other money to resettle the migrants that were coming across the border. 20+ million estimate or more. What do you think's happening in Germany? Why is this happening all over the West all at once? Think about it, man.
But for others, the AfD inspires dread, not hope. Hundreds of thousands have demonstrated against the far right in the run-up to this election.
Good luck.
The AfD leader says her party isn't far right, it's conservative. But I've come here to Thuringen, which is a heartland of the AfD, because tonight one of the most radical members of the party is giving a speech. How do you feel, Mr. Höcke?
This is Björn Höcke, a poster boy for the far right. He's the anti-immigration, Russia-friendly, Eurosceptic leader
Germany first,
who helped the AfD win its first state election since World War II. A man who once called Berlin's Holocaust Memorial a monument of shame, has twice been found guilty of using a Nazi slogan, but is still adored by supporters.
Some people say that the AfD and Björn Höcke are a danger to democracy, that your party's fascist or racist. What do you say?
When you have no arguments, especially in Germany, then you say Nazi, so that you have not to argument.
So you think the AfD is the future for Germany?
1 in 3 people in Thuringen supports the AfD. And as excitement builds for tonight's main event, the party's merchandise is proving popular.
So I just wanted to show you this table because it's a bit of a who's who of American and German populism. So we've got here Elon Musk's biography. At the back here, Iron Man, Donald Trump. Then another Donald Trump here. And then here we have Björn Höcke, who is the man of the moment tonight.
Told you guys, I said this earlier, that if America falls, everybody else is screwed. This election was so critical for the entire West. You guys have no idea. The dismantling of U.S. aid, everything that's getting rolled back, all the degenerate policies, everything is reverberating around the entire Western world. All because Americans voted to change course. Because America was the one really funding all of this shit. And now, finally, it's like a breath of fresh air. Potentially, we're going to get a rollback of all of these, I guess, psyops, whatever you want to call them, on societies in all parts of Europe. America's changing course. Some will say for the worse, but really, most of us know it's for the better. He has record approval ratings. Most of America voted. Turnout record levels of, like I said, he had like a mandate, essentially. They won all 3 branches, and America has spoken. Now the rest of Europe is slowly but surely following in tow. The machine is still thrashing itself, right? The elite are still trying to hold on to power, but losing. Every single election, they're losing more and more. People are coming to their senses. You could do things in smaller countries, like try to overthrow their electorate in their election process, like they try to do in Romania, where we have our elections in March again. But again, just like that, the guy that they're trying to kick off the ballot, far-right candidate, and he could be far-right, he could be a Putin sympathizer. I don't really know shit about him, but the people voted for him. He grew 10 points in the poll. That party, the far-right conservative party, grew like 12 points in the poll. If the guy is on the ballot again, he's going to win again. So what was the point of suspending all the way to March Romania's elections? Think about it. And now US aid doesn't exist anymore to meddle in all this sort of shit, all this statecraft bullshit to make sure that largest Air Force NATO base in the Black Sea gets constructed. What if this guy gets voted in and he puts a stop to that? You know, what's going on with Nord Stream 2 and how critical Poland was for that entire op to happen? What happens if they vote in a far-right party? What happens if America stopped funding, all of these things all at once as U.S. aid gets shut down, and then the will of the people in all these countries start to really come out instead of being puppet states? I don't know. The globalist monster is thrashing about because it's the beginning of the end. I really hope it is. I guess we'll see soon enough. This guy says when Japanese or even Taiwanese say no to mass migration, no one calls them far right. It's only Westerners who are so concerned with such terms. Far many East Asians like myself, it's just common sense to protect our own countries and ethnicities. Nothing racist or far right about it. Imagine a country where the victim of the grapist gets sentenced for making offensive remarks about the grapist. That was another headline in Germany too. That's insane. Yeah. It says typical journalism today. These are not far right. They're just not far left. That basically encapsulates what the real issue is of this, that the left has moved so far to the left that they're unrecognizable today. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you on the next one.